Greetings, family. We're back in Keys2SOAR Powerhouse with your sister Nefera, your Pan-African Transformational Coach. And we are going to build it tonight. Trust. I wanted to discuss trust because trust is one of the biggest factors in the repair and healing of the African diaspora. It's the thing that is often overlooked most because there's some real work involved with trust. Oftentimes we move to the big things. We move to the doing, the resources, the sourcing of materials and big things, right? The big details. But the small details is the trust part. And it's ignored. And I wonder why it's not even identified in our process as one of the top tier efforts to address when building relationships, friendships, partnerships, business, etc. Trust. And why hasn't trust been addressed? Although we all can admit that, well, there's a lot of corruption, or there is betrayal, or there is selfishness. All of these things are hinged and people trying to protect their own interests inside of the fact that trust is broken. So if we can all identify that there's corruption, which is someone trying to get more or trying to get because they're inside of scarcity, or if there is selfishness, if we've all identified that these things are present, why isn't it on our top tier list of things to do? So this is one of the first things that I start with. Trust. And the easiest way to address any lack of trust is in your examination of yourself and the things that you need for your wellness. Because most people need the same exact things, whether it's in business, family, relationship, business, or what have you. We all need the same thing. We need to be seen and accepted. We need to be supported. We need to be loved on. We need to be encouraged. And we also need sound reflection. We need to be able to exchange ideas and get real good impact that we can trust is good for our own interests. We all need these things. There's so much stress and frustration attached to trying to see in all these different angles. There's a number of anxieties and angst that are related to not having these things present. So when you acknowledge that you need these things, you give these things forward. I can tell you, because I have been the difference that is different. That means I enact the behavior that is indicative of building trust. I present the olive branch. And I realize that one of my mentors earlier, or Jegnas earlier on in my journey, said to me, you're being African with people who aren't being African. And the reason being is because they're still in scarcity mentality. They're still in response to their trauma. They're not conscious of driving their own behavior. So while I'm giving an olive branch, they're not. They're still in taking mode. They're still in fear mode. They're still in withholding mode because they're hoarding out of fear. So what has to happen is that everyone has to say, well, this is what I need to thrive. Let me put these things onto someone else so that they can also thrive. And this will build trust. And habitual behavior will restore it. I have this habitual behavior. It's gotten to the point where it's a part of my natural knack, my personal brand. I walk with it. I be with it. It is something that everyone knows is in me. People can meet me in a short amount of time, and immediately that is my exchange. It has taken decades to build this, and now it's built into just a natural reflex. And how did it become that way is, one, being able to step out and be the difference that's different without looking for approval, right? Because if you're the only one who's doing a thing, and in my space, integrity And inside of integrity is trust and consistency and commitment and loyalty. Those things are inside of integrity. The things that you do when nobody is looking, those things are inside of integrity. And it is a part of my personal output. But the goal here is for everyone else in the space, because we need critical mass to change the social landscape. And the goal is to build trust. So if we need critical mass to build a social landscape, we need a lot of people doing a consistent thing, building integrity, building loyalty, building trust, building commitment, building consistency, in order to build the habitual, repetitive behavior where we begin to heal in such a way where it's consistent. We know that there's safety and there's trust in this thing that's going to continue to keep happening. Not the relationship with our past experiences, which is waiting for the ball to drop. Waiting for the ball to drop to see, well, they was doing nice now. They're doing nice because of our trauma responses, which I'm looking to see. We doing nice now, but what you want? Right? We have to be open. If we ourselves are being the difference, I'm being the difference. So I actually expect that this is going to show up in my life. It rarely does, because most people are not working on restoring trust. Many people are in varying degrees their own trauma responses. They are still informed by their previous experiences. They're informed by the ghosts within themselves that they've done some things that were out of integrity to get where they are. And they're assuming that karmic energy is going to show up for them. So they're inside of a nervous tick. This is like a landscape, a matrix of what it looks like to not have trust be present on a very consistent basis, so that we can heal that reality of corruption and selfishness and taking. And so we can stop those things from being in our social landscape. Because if we're going to build strong business and we're going to build a united front, it has to start with restoring trust. There is no way that an African can take arms or take harm onto another African for no amount of money, because we understand that while you might get this little pinch for today, and it might feed you for today, because they never pay you enough to set you up. They just pay you enough to trip your brother. And oftentimes when they trip their brother, when I look back at Malcolm X and I look back at different individuals across our landscape that were harmed by another brother out of distrust, out of betrayal, it was for such a minute blow in the wind that was so unnecessary. What was taken was such an enormous piece of what could have actually lent support to the people. So when we build in trust, that's the first thing we need to address, is the restoration of trust. So if you know you want trust, then you need to be calling people out in your space and helping them build trust. And don't ignore it. Let's not just have a conversation and laugh it out, because that's not going to be it. I start with trust by allowing you to be upfront with your cards. This is what I want. This is what you want. Let's make an exchange. And let's stand on that. And if we can't stand on that, then let's come back with integrity and say, let's readdress this, because I'm not able to fulfill this, or I'm not able to fulfill that. Let's reconsider our agreement so that no one is out of integrity. And with that conversation, we continue to build trust, because trust is a thing that we can build politically, within our educational system, within our relationships, marriages, friendships, family, colleagues. It doesn't really matter. Trust is at the cusp of what, and I'm not talking about cordial, casual, nicey nice. I'm not talking about that. That's not the thing that creates safety. Because oftentimes in a colleague experience, I know that you're being nice, or that you're being trusting, or you're, saying what you have to say, is because it's a part of your job. The type of trust I'm talking about is the kind of trust that's built into, you're an African, I'm an African, we bonded. And that's it. For no reason, you don't earn it, there's nothing you can do for it, it just is what it is. I'm committed to you, you're committed to me, and there's nothing that can change that. So let us start to restore trust. Let us love on each other with kind coaching to help us restore trust. And let's talk about our growth process. And as we move through the powerhouse, I will be constantly using myself as a case study, because as I explained to you before, nobody is willing to allow themselves to be open and stretched out and examined the way that I'm willing to open up and stretch out for you to examine my life circumstances, so that you can pull the tools and you can have benefit of my experience. And when I tell you, it's no longer theory when I've put it into practice for 2+ decades. Peace, power, and blessings, African. Thank you for being here with me in the powerhouse. Continue to come back and fortify yourself. Take these tools, put them into your life, share them with your friends, family, and community. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share the video. It helps to push the video out to others to get this message. African, let's do trust. UBUNTU as a world culture. We are a stand for the ascending of the African soul and the opium of the African spirit. Sawubona and namaste. Peace, blessings.